Güzel.
Merhaba arkadaşlar, hepiniz IEFT Talks webinarlarına hoş geldiniz. Bugün Kanada'nın lider Polytechnic Üniversitesinde eğitimi The Northern Alberta Institute of Technology Eden'dan dinliyor olacağız. Lütfen sorularınızı questions kısmından sormayı unutmayın. Yes, Eden, the stage is yours now.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. My name is Eden, and I'm from the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology. I'm really glad to be here in your afternoon time. It's our morning here to just share a little bit about our institution. So as we start off, I'm actually going to start with a video here. So I'm going to share that video.
They say, if you travel far enough, you meet yourself. I wondered if this applied to a 23-year-old engineering student from India studying abroad. I could feel it in that very first breath of crisp Canadian air. I had entered a new world. One full of new discoveries waiting to be made. I still remember seeing campus for the first time. I felt excited for my first semester, for what was to come next for me. Meeting so many people from different countries and hearing about their journeys was so much fun. I dove right in and worked hard those first days. My Bachelor of Technology classes were fascinating. They were industry-oriented and hands-on. I felt like I was gaining insight into what life was really like in the field. And I made friends quickly. Good friends, the kind you can do anything with. Any Canadian thing. But this was life and not a dream. Of course, challenges hit me. There were times I felt like maybe the whole experience was too big for me. I had planned to find a job, but it was tough to land one. My budget became tight. I missed my mom and dad, and my fun classes became my hard classes. Did I travel literally across the world to fail? I remembered something my parents used to tell me. A person who works hard has nothing to fear. So I doubled my efforts and found a job. My instructors challenged me to dig deep and look at things in a new way. To appreciate that engineering is most useful to us when it coexists with nature. I thought about my reasons for coming to Canada, why I went in a different direction than my friends back home. We were all asking the same questions, but I wanted different answers. Sustainable answers for the future of engineering. For all of our futures.
Hi Eden, could you please unmute your microphone?
Hi. Okay, sorry. Thanks, sorry about that. Yeah, so I hope that was an inspiring video for you and gives you a little bit of a snapshot of what it might be like to study overseas. Obviously, that was recorded pre-pandemic, before COVID. So you can see that we were on campus and the student was walking around. Campus looks a little bit different now, and we'll talk a little bit about that later as well. So as I said, my name is Eden, and I am an international enrollment specialist here at the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology. Just to give you a little bit of a background about myself, I actually used to be an international student advisor. So I actually worked as one of the advisors that will help international students after you get to Canada for almost about 7 years. And then after that, I switched into recruitment, where I actually met with students before they came to Canada. So when I'm talking to students, I'm very much aware of what your experience will be like after you come to Canada. because I have met many students who have experienced it all. I personally actually also came to Canada when I was in high school. So I grew up in Singapore and then I came here. And so I've lived here for many years now. But again, I also do have that experience of moving from one culture to another. And every time, students, like when they're thinking of going to a new country, moving over and kind of starting afresh, there's a lot of things to think about. And so I hope that today's presentation, I'll be able to cover a lot of the topics that you might possibly be thinking about and answer a lot of the questions that you might have as well. Obviously, it would be great if you can learn a lot more about NEET as well, and that you'll be interested in coming to our institution. Just a quick note, I will be taking questions at the end of the presentation, but feel free to put them in the chat box. It's just that right now I won't be able to see them due to screen limitations, but I will be able to answer all your questions at the end of the presentation. So just bear with me there. Okay, so this will be the agenda of our webinar today. First, I'll be talking a little bit briefly about Canada and the province of Alberta, and then the city of Edmonton. So these two things take up basically half of the presentation. And the reason for that is, while it's important that you choose the right school, you also need to know where you'll be living in, because this is now going to be your new home if this is where you're moving to. So I hope that, in helping you understand this place and the culture of this place, that will help you make a good decision as well. Then I'll talk a little bit about NEET and our programs, and lastly, how to apply to NEET. So first off, travel times. Where are we located? So NEET is located in Edmonton in Alberta, and we are actually about, in terms of entire flight times, about 14 hours away from Istanbul. So usually most people would fly through either Vancouver, Toronto, or Montreal. If you're coming from Istanbul, usually you'll be flying in from the west side of Canada, the east side of Canada. And so most people would stop through Toronto or Montreal. If you're flying through Toronto, it's about 4 hours flight from Toronto, and in Montreal, about 4 to 5 hours as well. So oftentimes when people think about Canada, the first thing they think of is that it looks like this, that we're full of snow, that there are, probably mooses walking around, and that it's just a very cold place. And while we are currently in our winter season, and I was just in the mountains this weekend, it did look a little bit like this. It's not like this all year round. We do have 4 different seasons, and I'll show you some other pictures later. Canada is also known for this person, which most of you probably know, and he has aged a little bit since then because of the pandemic and all the stresses. So this is our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. A lot of people think that most people in Canada looks like him, that everybody is Caucasian. But I also like to acknowledge that we actually are on Treaty 6 land. And so this is a place where a lot of the Aboriginal people come from. And there are also a lot of people of different diverse backgrounds, such as myself. We are known for multiculturalism in Canada, and we have a very major openness to diversity. And so we accept people from all over the world, and people really do encourage and welcome them to share their cultures here, as opposed to covering it up. So if you were to come to Canada, you'll be able to definitely bring a piece of the Turkish culture and share that with the rest of us here. Here are just some quick pictures of what Canada looks like. It's very beautiful, as you can see. And we do have 4 distinct seasons. So Canada is, there are many big cities, but they're nestled in a lot of natural spaces. So as you can see here on this right side, this is actually in Edmonton. This is our fall season in the autumn time, and so it basically looks like that, and it's really beautiful. And then you have our winter season, which looks a little bit like this, and then these are our cities and our natural spaces. So some of you might know, but Canada's population is only at 37 million. So I did a quick Google search, and Istanbul already has 15.5. So all of Canada is one of the biggest countries in the world. And so we have a lot of space for a lot more people. Compared to the United States, we're much bigger than the United States, but their population is 323 million. So we're only 10% of their population. And we have a lot more land, basically. But we are one of the few countries in the world right now that also offers a post-graduation work permit to offer to all international students after they come to Canada. So after you study in Canada, there is an immigration pathway for you if you wanted to stay, work here, and then apply for permanent residency. So in 2018, 54,000 international students became permanent residents. We recognize that international students, they are really great candidates for permanent residency because you've already adapted to the culture here. You probably do really well when you're working. And so we do invite a lot of our international students to continue on into this pathway. A lot of this really is to offset our aging population, which I'll talk about later, and the reduction in our I guess, population as well, because we do have these labor needs that we need really qualified professional people. And so having international students come and get trained and learn here and stay here is something that we all want in Canada. So this is a map of Canada broken down by our provinces and territories. And you can see that Alberta here is right next to British Columbia, which is famous for, we'll see, Vancouver. And as I mentioned before, Ontario and Toronto is on this side of the country. So Edmonton is over here, and something that some people don't know about Alberta is that we are home to the third largest oil reserve in the entire world. So that actually helps us a lot in terms of economy-wise, and so we were really booming a lot in the economy until 2018 as well. And so also because of that, we don't have any provincial taxes. When I say provincial taxes, I mean sales tax. So on everything that you're buying in Canada, you have to pay taxes. So there is a federal tax, which is something that you pay to the federal government in Canada, and every province has their own tax. In Alberta, you don't have any. So say, for example, you have to buy a textbook that is $100. In Alberta, you pay $105 because the $5 is for the federal tax. But if you live in Vancouver, you probably pay $113. So that's $7 more. If you live in Ontario, maybe $114, which is even more. So depending on each province, you pay more, but in Alberta, just by living here, you are actually paying less for everything because we just don't have the additional tax. So some people who live close to Alberta, sometimes they even move into the province to buy some things because it's cheaper. And so that really does make a difference if you're considering finances, because in everything that you're buying, you're going to be saving a little bit of money. In terms of our income tax, so this is a chart that needs a little bit of interpretation, but basically if you have a family who has an income of $100,000 in Canadian dollars, you will be paying your federal tax to the government on your income, but you will also be paying a provincial tax to your province. In Alberta, you pay less than every other provinces in Canada. And so in total, you'll probably pay $17,573 in Alberta, but if you were to live here, you would be paying $24,000. So that's almost $7,000 more just in taxes 1 year. So it does make a huge difference even in your income tax of how much you can bring home, because you will have to keep the rest of the money after you give your income taxes. Here, I also have a little bit of a kind of an outlook for Alberta jobs. So oftentimes students that come through NAIT and also come to Canada to study are looking further. They're not just looking at what they're studying, but also in terms of what kind of jobs you'll be able to get in the future. So here you can actually see the job openings that are the outlook for Alberta until 2028. And then you have the amount of job seekers that we are expecting until 2028. So this is actually taken from the government of Alberta, basically their website. This is a publication that they published in 2019, kind of predicting all the extra job openings and job seekers in the future. So for students who are currently looking into the future right now, if you were to come and study, you're probably going to be studying a 2-year program. And so your graduation year would likely be 2023, maybe 24, maybe 25 as well. And so you can see actually here, you have the total job openings, which is basically created through economic growth. So the growth in the different industries, and then which is what we call expansion demand. And then it also is grown by replacement demand, which is from people who are retiring, people who are migrating out of the province, as well as deaths, unfortunately. So this is to replace people who have left the jobs. And so you might know that there were a lot of baby boomers, and they are actually retiring soon. So there is a surge in a replacement demand for quite a while. And that actually does help in a sense in terms of job openings. And then you have your job seekers, which is people coming in to look for jobs. And you can see that there is a cumulative imbalance between the two. It's not a direct 1-1 kind of, because there are job seekers who will also be opening jobs, because if people leave a job and look for a job, they're counted twice. So it's not just like this minus this. But at the same time, you can see during this period of time, there will be an increase in jobs, which is very helpful. Currently, we are in a little bit of a down state, possibly also because of the oil industry currently, and also the pandemic, of course. And so this was done in 2019 before the pandemic happened. So there is a little bit of a setback, but it does help you get an idea that there will continue to be some jobs, even just due to replacement demand as well. I also have from the same publication kind of the different occupations that are available and how much there is an expansion and replacement demand in each. So in certain areas such as the trades, sales, service occupations, and even administrative occupations in business, there will be a surge here. And so those could be areas that you might be interested in. And NAIT does offer a lot of programs in a lot of these areas as well. Another thing about Alberta that is interesting to note is that we actually have one of the highest minimum wage in all of Canada. So currently our wage is at $15 per hour, which is about 82 Turkish lira per hour. And so that is for the minimum amount of work that you'll be doing, and that's how much you'll be able to earn. You could earn even more than that. So if, for example, you were to work at a part-time job, you know, in Starbucks or something, you'll be able to earn that amount as well. And so that can really help supplement some of your cost. Here, I also took this from the Government of Alberta website. You can see here, this is the source. And we have all the wages, the average wages in each industry. I like to tell students to do as much research as they can before they come and find out about the industry they're interested in going into and what their prospects would be. So you can see how much you will be able to earn, generally speaking, after you graduate in each of the industry. One last thing that's really cool about Canada, about Alberta, is that we have free healthcare insurance. I realized this, that not every province actually has it, but international students do get free healthcare if you were to live in Alberta, as long as you study for at least 1 year. If you were to come with your family, say if you have a spouse and a kid, and you bring everybody gets free healthcare. That does make a huge difference, especially when you are, you know, kind of strapped for cash. So free healthcare is available even when you graduate as well. And that includes basically going to the hospital, you know, or if you had to see a doctor. Medications is not covered, but we do have external coverage with NAIT. So NAIT does offer that to all students, and a lot of our students opt into that for medication and prescription purposes. So moving into Edmonton, which is Alberta's capital city, just a few points here for you. Edmonton's population is at 1.3, so it's not as big and populated as Istanbul, but the projection is to grow by 65,000 per year for the next 15 years. We've been hitting that. I've been living here for many years, and I have seen that the city has been growing and been very robust. Population density is only 123 people per square kilometer, so you get a lot of space, which could be a good thing for during COVID period. The average age is at 35, and we're at one of the youngest cities in Canada. And so if you can see that the average age is so young, really the reason for that is that, you know, there's a lot of younger people here. People are moving into this place that's kind of like a young family area. And so there is a lot of opportunity for growth. And so it is one of those places that is often overlooked, but does have a lot of potential. We have 4 distinct seasons, and our average winter temperature is at -10. So winter does take up a huge part of our lives here in Canada. And in Edmonton, I would say that winter usually lasts from about at the end of October, so beginning of November, all the way till probably end of March, early April. So it is a good chunk of the year. Right now, we're right in the middle of winter. I would say last week we had a really cold week. It was about minus 20 some, minus 30 some. But this week we're back to about minus 10, which is around this average temperature right now. And so while it does get really cold, as long as you bundle up in Alberta, you actually do feel quite warm, because what we have here is a dry cold compared to a humid cold. So in the dry cold, as long as you put on a lot of layers, usually you will feel quite warm. And so we also have a lot of amenities around the city that will keep you warm. So we have heated bus systems and train systems. Everything indoors is heated. We have pathways, which is basically like a tunnel that connects two buildings, but they're usually above ground. That will keep you warm as well. So as you stay indoors and make sure that you're bundled up, usually you'll be able to keep yourself warm. We're also known to be Canada's festival city, so it's a very active place. Edmonton's culture is that people like to go out and do things. So the pandemic has been hard for everybody here as well. And we have not been able to have our yearly festivals. We have a lot of festivals. In the summertime, we have festivals every week. In the wintertime, we continue to do festivals, and we do a lot of things outside in the city. We like that because it helps us get to know the community, and it's also just kind of getting you outside of your house, basically. It's also known to be a business and political hub, and there is a lot of actually monetary support to start your own business in Edmonton. Alberta also recently started an immigration pathway for people who start their own business as well. It's also known to be a high-tech hub it is known to be the home of the National Institute of Nanotechnology, and that is housed right here in Edmonton too. So moving into living costs in Edmonton, this is something a lot of students are thinking about. They want to project how much it might cost for them. So I have here two different sides. One side is the cost of living for one person, and the other is for two people. So rent of $600 can generally get you a bachelor suite in Edmonton. If you would like a one bedroom, you're probably looking at $1,000, and these are Canadian dollars. So you have a total of about $1,100 per month for one person, and $1,700 Canadian per month for two people. So it comes up to about $6,040 to 9,300 Turkish lira for your living costs, just as an estimation here. But as an international student, you do get to work off campus per week for up to 20 hours. And as I mentioned, Alberta has one of the highest minimum wages in Canada at $15 per hour. So you'll be able to earn $1,200 per month Canadian if you were to work your 20 hours. That's coming up to about 6,588 Turkish lira. And you can do this for 30 weeks in a year. This is during the school year. So while you're in school, you can only work up to 20 hours a week. But once you are off school, so you have scheduled breaks, you can actually work unlimited hours. So you can work full time, that's 40 hours or more if you would like. However, if you're in ESL or academic upgrading, you can only work on campus. And we do have a lot of jobs available on campus. We do have a lot of students who look for jobs on campus. It's a lot more convenient for them, and they like that as well. But also just know that while there is a lot available, there is also a lot more competition because everybody wants to work on campus. And so if you're able to work off campus, there just opens up a lot more space for you to look for different jobs. Here we also kind of broken it down by what you can imagine per semester. So say you start in Canada, you will probably have 4 semesters if you were to study at NAIT, because most of our programs are 2-year programs and they're diplomas. And so you will have your first semester and your second semester starting in September and then January. You will have a 3-week winter break in December. And then you will have a 4-month summer break between May to August. And then you go back to school again and do the same thing and hopefully graduate. So per semester, which is 4 months, you're expecting a living cost of 6,800. This is using the 2 people, the higher living cost, which is approximately 37,333 Turkish lira. And you'll also hopefully be able to work part-time if you're working off campus during the regular term, and then also have your breaks. Your part-time work can probably help you supplement a lot of that living cost that you'd be expecting. But I always do suggest to students, while you are able to work, that, you know, when you come, you do come with your funds for 1 year of studying and living. It is required when you're applying for a study permit too. And so just make sure that you actually do have that money, because oftentimes there are a lot of things that are out of our control. When I was an international student advisor, I met a lot of students who expected to be able to find a job right away. But even in that video, for somebody who works really hard, it does take a bit of time for you to get that part-time job. So it might be stressful if that's all you're relying on. So I do suggest that you come with your first year of funds, and then as you are working during that year, that will help with your second year. Another thing to note is that we do have a lot of scholarships available for international students in your second year. So while we don't have entrance scholarships for our first year international students, if you do well in your first year of studies, which is really why you're coming for, you will likely get a lot of scholarships in your second year, and that can really help you supplement it as well. So in terms of, you know, just kind of budgeting and stuff, it is important that you do have your first year costs covered, and then you'll likely be able to help a lot with your second year. So now moving on into the education system in Canada. So a lot of students, again, overseas, and rightfully so, will ask, what's the difference between a polytechnic, a college, and a university, as you can see here? That's a very big question and a really good question, because maybe this is very different in different countries and different systems. So the most important thing really to note is that the way that we teach in polytechnics is different from the way that we teach in universities. However, the quality of education is just the same. We are considered on the same level, and when you graduate from either one, you will just be as easily qualified to either work, or you can start your master's. Everything at NAIT is accredited. We are an accredited school with the government of Alberta and of Canada. So all our programs are accredited, and they will be able to launch you into your work. Or if you want to take your master's after you finish our bachelor, that can work as well. So what's the main difference in our teaching is that in a university, usually it's very much theoretical. So you will be sitting in a classroom, listening to lectures. You'll likely be going to the libraries to do a lot of academic research, a lot of paper reading, writing your own essays and papers and research papers. Whereas in a polytechnic, very much it's going to be applied research. So we look at real life industry problems, and then we try to solve them in lab spaces and in your classrooms. And I'll talk about that as well. And so it's just really the way that you teach is different. However, like I said, even if you were to look for a job graduating from a polytechnic versus a university, you're just as likely be getting a job. And the reason is, in Canada, the way that we look the employers look for the employees, they don't actually just look at where they graduate from. A lot of countries, this is the case. You know, they only look at if you graduated from the highest, the best ranked schools or anything like that. Ranking, funny as it sounds, doesn't make a huge difference in Canada. So if I were an employer and I see that you graduated from a certain school versus a different school, that's not what I'm going to be looking at. I would just make sure that both of you have a degree or a diploma, and that's something that I need. And then I will look at work experience, and I look at what we call Canadian work experience. And so that is actually more important for me as an employer when I'm looking for a student to hire. And so that's something that NAIT actually offers to a lot of our students, is that practical hands-on experience. So this is what the polytechnic education really is, right? We have that 50% theory and 50% application, and it will be shorter 2-year programs in smaller classes. Reason why the classes will be smaller is because we want to make sure that all our students have enough ample time with the machinery or like the lab spaces to make sure that you are very comfortable in the work when you graduate. So a lot of it will be technology based, and we are going to be doing a lot of hands-on learning. So when you graduate the program, you know, you will be very familiar, and you will know exactly what the lab space is going to look like in the company you're going to be working in. And so a lot of our employers are very satisfied with our students. You can see here it's a 98% satisfaction rate. The higher the satisfaction rate, the better your chances are of getting a job, because if they like somebody who graduated before you, they will look for our grads again. And so because of that, like, our students really do get a job quite easily. Our instructors in the programs usually come with multiple years of industry experience. They would have either already still be currently working in the field or have many years before they can even get a job at NAET. And so when they're talking to you, they will let you know what is essential in order to get a job and how to succeed in the field. There will be a lot of focuses on your presentations, research projects, and relevant work skills. There is work placement opportunities, which is what we call co-op opportunities. And so that's something that you get to do in some of our programs where you work in the company before you graduate as part of your schooling. So that might be a couple of weeks to almost a whole semester where you're working in a company, and they will just basically grade you. That will be part of your experience at NAET. There are also a lot of networking opportunities. So some of you might know this or some of you might not. In Canada, looking for a job, networking is really important as well. So it's important that you talk to different people in the field and understand what it's like and make that connection. While it won't give you a job, it is really crucial that you network and get to know people, because it could even just get you an interview. So even something like that would be very helpful for a brand new graduate. And when I talked about industry partnerships as one of our pillars, so the way NAET works is that we work really closely with the industry that hires our students. The way that we do it is that these industries, these companies that hires our students, every year they send representatives to NAET to speak to our instructors and our program chairs. They sit on something called a program advisory board, where they will basically kind of talk about the latest trends and the things that are upcoming in the industry. So they might tell us, this is the latest technology that is being used. Please make sure that your students know how to use them. These are, the things that are changing in the industry. These are the number of people that are retiring in the industry. So if there are going to be a bigger number of people retiring, we will need to hire more next year. So please ensure that you have more students that are graduating. And so we will reflect everything that they say into our curriculum. And so because of that, our students are very relevant. And these companies that are very confident in our graduates as well. And so everything is developed with their input, and it supports the needs of Alberta. So you can almost see it as the government, NAET, and industry, is that the industry will be working in the field, and then NAET produces the workforce to help these industries, and then the government will be funding some of our programs. So that's the way that the three bodies basically work. So moving into NAET, just some very quick facts. We were founded in 1962 with more than we have 4 campuses right now. But most students are on our main campus. It's an international student, that's likely where you'll be. We have more than 40,000 students with over 190,000 international students from over 88 countries right now. So we are actually one of the largest polytechnics in Canada, and the third largest post-secondary in Alberta. We were recently, just a couple of weeks ago, ranked 3rd in Canada's top research colleges and research income from partner organizations. What this means is that we have a lot of income coming from industries, giving us money to do research at NAET. This shows that we have a really strong relationship with industry, and we deliver results for our partners. And these are in areas, especially in the areas of energy, environmental protection, and resource sustainability. So these are areas that NAET has programs in as well. The campus itself is very easily accessible and connected by train and bus to the rest of Edmonton. We're located just a little bit north of Edmonton downtown. And so if you were to take the train or the bus, it goes straight to our campus. And it's very convenient. We don't have our own housing on campus, but we do have a partnership with the University of Alberta, MacEwan University in Edmonton. So you can take the train from there straight to our school. There are residences around NAET. When I say residence, I mean like there are apartment buildings and houses that you can rent and you can live in those areas as well. In terms of areas of studies, we have over 120 different programs at NAET. So there's a lot actually, if you were to look into every single one of them. And so it can be a little bit overwhelming, and I'll talk a little bit later about ways to kind of look for a program, right? And so the many different areas of studies these are just categories, and we have specific programs for each area. However, most of our programs do require a proof of English language proficiency on top of your basic high school requirements. And so you will either need IELTS of 6.5 overall or a 5.0 individual band, and this is your academic IELTS, or you need TOEFL of 80 and 20, or right now we take Duolingo as well of 115. We also have a lot of other proof of English language proficiency on our website if you're interested in looking at those too. For our program stats, I just have this information that a lot of students might be interested in. So for example, if you were to look at any of our programs here, I can give you an estimate of the tuition cost and the books here for 1 year. So let's say you are going into landscape architectural technology. So this program will be a 2-year program, and the tuition cost for 1 year is $19,000 Canadian. And so for 2 years, you're coming close to 40,000 Canadian. And then you have books and supplies. And then after you've graduated, we also actually have statistics from our students who graduated last year to see how many percentage of them were employed. We always survey our graduates about 9 months after they graduate to see what's the employment rate and how much they have been earning and their median salary. So you can see here for this program, 86% of our students got a job, and they started at a median salary at 46,000 Canadian per year. So if you look at that, even after you graduate, in your first year, you'll be making back everything that is your tuition costs and your books and supplies. So that's actually a very decent median salary. To give you an idea of what a median salary is in Edmonton, for everybody in Edmonton, the average salary is at 60,000. So right now, a lot of our programs are very close, even in your first year of graduation. And this is with just 2 years of the diploma studies. So if you're interested in just looking for a job soon after, this could be a really good prospect for you as well. And as I mentioned, it is just as easy to get a job even graduating from the diploma as you would in the bachelor program. So some students do ask me, though, what's the difference between then graduating from a bachelor program, right, and the diploma program? This is actually something that students might want to think about, because if you are looking to advance further in the field in the future, so say you want to become a manager or a supervisor, at those times, usually they will then look for a bachelor credential. If you only have a diploma, it might hinder you. However, to just get the first job that you need the foot in the door, a diploma will suffice. And so what a lot of our students do is that they start off with the diploma, they finish the 2 years, and then they start working and get their post-graduation work permit, get their permanent residency, and then they come back to school and finish 2 more years and get a bachelor. That way, when they come back and they're a permanent resident, things are cheaper for them. And so your tuition cost will be much cheaper than this, because this is the Canadian, this is not the Canadian tuition cost, it's for international students. And so that's something that a lot of our international students do as well, if they would like to advance in the future. So I sidetracked a little bit. I'm going to move back into our program. And we do have a program here called the Business Administration Program that offers something called Provisional Admission. So there's many different words. What this really means is that we allow students with slightly lower English language to get into this program. So usually the IELTS is 6.5 with a 5.0 and then a TOEFL of 80. And Duolingo 115. But for this, we can actually allow some students with slightly lower English to get into the program. In your first year of your business program, though, you need to also have to take NATE's ESL level 6 courses. You have to finish that within your first year, and that's all you need to do. And so it kind of helps you supplement that while you're doing your business courses. And you are actually eligible to apply for a regular study permit, which is really nice because it doesn't limit you from only working on campus. You can work off campus as well. If you do require to take ESL courses, we do have ESL as well. And we have 6 levels of ESL from beginner to intermediate. And when you finish level 6 at NATE, you actually can apply to most of our programs. You don't have to take IELTS or Duolingo or TOEFL again. You just need to finish our level 6. And our programs run very much similar to all our other programs, where it's very much hands-on. And I do like to stress to students, if you feel like your English is not strong enough, if following this presentation is a little bit difficult for you, then I do highly recommend that you boost up your English, because language skills is something that is very, very helpful for you, and it's an investment in your future. Because if you're looking for, advancement opportunities in the future, people are looking to promote somebody. If you have good English skills, they'll likely promote you over somebody who does not have good English skills. Because communication is really important, right? If you're looking for a job, again, having good English skills will really get you further. So this is something that I would highly recommend. Maybe, just taking additional ESL courses and just boosting up your English language skills. If you would like to explore the different programs at NATE, this is just a tip on how to look at our web pages. So all of our programs are listed on our web page with each individual program page. So for our digital media and IT program, you can see here we have different start dates. We have a January start date and a September start date. All our programs will open for application the year before in October. So this upcoming September 2021, last October courses, the applications have already opened. And for some of our programs, they have already filled up for international students. So it can be very popular because we have small class sizes. You can see here that the program length is 2 years and we accept international students. This is important to see. If you're interested in whether the program is offered online, you can actually see that under delivery options. Right now, this option is for our current semester because of COVID reasons. So a lot of the programs are offered solely online, but we also have about half of them that is actually offered partially online and partially on campus because of the lab components that have to happen. So this is something you might want to check before you apply for the program as well, is to look at the delivery options. So over here, you can click into more in-depth understanding of what you'll be learning, career opportunities, and if you want to know more, you can contact the program. There are the rates for your employment rates and your starting salary that I used previously that you can take a look at as well. And if you want to understand each individual course that you'll be taking, you can also see that under courses, check out the tuition fees and how to apply. So for a majority of our programs, like I said, we need language proficiency of English, but we also need usually some sort of high school subjects. So it will be English, math, maybe chemistry, physics, or biology. It depends on the program you're applying for. Some programs have a lot less, some have more. But when I say high school, that means you only really need to submit your high school transcripts. But if you have post-secondary and you submit your post-secondary, we'll take courses from there as well. But it also has to be in the form of English, math, science, physics, for example. And so if you have taken both post-secondary and high school, I suggest that you submit both of them, not just one, because sometimes in post-secondary, people might not have taken some of the courses that's required. So we will look at as many courses that you have taken as possible. I suggest that you do both if you have them. We currently do not have conditional admission for high school students. So if you're currently right now in grade 12 and you haven't graduated, we actually cannot give you admission until you have fully graduated. We need the full courses before we can give you admission. Jumping very quickly, gear into post-graduation work permit. I mentioned this briefly before, but this is basically what it's like in Canada. If you were to study in Canada for a program length that is 2 years or more, you will get a post-graduation work permit for up to 3 years. And so this is pretty important because if you finish a one-year program and you only got 1 year, you cannot extend this post-graduation work permit. You also cannot go back to school and then go back and get another post-graduation work permit. You can only get it once in your life. So make sure you get the longest amount, which is the 3 years. So you need to study for a minimum of 2 years, which most of our programs would be. And why it's important for 3 years is because if you want to apply for permanent residency, you do need that amount of time in Canada working to be able to apply for that. So that's just something to think about but when you're looking for a program length. If you don't know what program fit it is, that means you don't know which program to study. We have something that's really fun. This is our Find Your Future quiz. So it's like a personality quiz that you can take. You kind of fill in stuff that you're interested in, like the kind of job I guess, environment that you'd like to work in. And then they will give you a few different programs that you might be interested. So I would suggest that you do this if you're kind of not sure of what you want to do yet. And lastly, I'm just going to go very quickly into our application process. This is a big overview because there are a lot of tiny details that is involved, and I'm not going to go too much into it. However, if you're interested in applying to NATE, definitely for sure, first thing you want to do is to check quite a few things. You know, you want to take your English language proficiency test even before you apply, because if you don't have the Duolingo or the IELTS required, then you're just going to be wasting your money. You want to check the processing times for your study permit. You know, if it takes up to, I don't know, 8 months right now to get a study permit, then you will not be able to get into classes in time, right? Check the requirements, make sure that, you know, if it's asking for physics and chemistry, that you actually took those courses. If you didn't, then there's no point. So some of these things are important as well. You want to get your transcripts officially translated and notarized before you send them to us. Then we have an online system that you can apply. It's called APAS, and you will then create an account at NATE. After that, that's where you upload all your documents, and we will accept that as unofficial for now. We will do an assessment of your documents for a $75 fee, and then after that, you will need to also mail your physical copies to NATE. So when we just look at the online copies, those are just unofficial, but we can start the process of assessing. And then in the meantime, you can send us your physical copies, which we will require eventually in order to give you full admission. Then you can also need to contact your English language proficiency test center. If it's IELTS, make sure they send us the documents for you as well. So after you've done all that, then you can just sit back and wait, and then wait for your assessment and the decision. So if you're admitted, then you will receive a letter, and you will pay $1,000 that is non-refundable of a deposit to accept your seat. So all you need to pay is that $1,000, and you will get your visa letter of acceptance that you can apply for your study permit. So in a nutshell, this is how the process works. Sometimes the process can be quite long, and it could take up to 3 months. And so it's important to plan in advance for that as well. But we also have something that's available for students who are watching this video today. In terms of deadlines, generally speaking, for your $1,000 deposits, they are due within 1 month of our offer. So you have 1 month to think about whether you are still interested in applying, in coming to NATE before you pay this deposit. Like I said, it's not refundable and not transferable. You cannot pay your deposit and then switch it to a different semester after that. So it's for each specific semester. There will be a class enrollment deadline a couple of months before. And your tuition is actually only due about a month before the start of your semester. So each semester you will have your tuition due, and you only need to pay just a little bit before that. So in order to get your visa letter of acceptance, you only need to pay the $1,000, not the semester tuition. Some students like to pay their full tuition. If you would like to do that, that's up to you, but it's not a requirement for us. If you're interested in applying to NATE, usually our processing times, like I said, could take up to 2 to 3 months. But if you are interested in applying soon, we will have yours processed by the end of March. So that's in about 6 weeks if you do all these. So you have to first make an application on APAS first, and then upload your documents, and then let us know that you have already made the application, and we will then expedite it for you. So if you're interested in something like this, you can feel free to talk to us at internationalnate.ca. That's basically the email box that I check. And you have to send us that information by March 16th. If you have more questions about the application process, again, feel free to check with us there as well. So what's next? If you're interested in applying, feel free to check out our nate.ca/applyinternational. It has our checklist of different things that you need to do. We also have authorized agents that are available to help you. So we do have one currently in Turkey. And so if you look at our international page, you can go to see that agent there. They are an official authorized agent. If you work with them, then they will know our processes too. There are program previews if you're interested in knowing more about the specific programs. We have the different schools here that you can actually check out. This is where you can talk to the actual program chairs and the instructors and learn more about the specific programs. It could be a good place for you to just kind of understand more. Or if you want to explore and learn more about maybe what your interests are, you can do our Find Your Future quiz on this website here. And lastly, feel free to connect with us. Send us an email at internationalnate.ca at any time, or check out our Facebook and Instagram, and you will find out a lot more about campus life and what it's like to study here at NATE. So just thank you so much for coming. I hope this was very helpful for you. And if it's okay, I might start looking into the questions. So I'm going to see if there are any specific questions here. Okay, so I'm going to start at the bottom. I think, I'm assuming this is where you can see some people. Okay, so I have a question here is about scholarship requirements. Is it hard to get financial aid and other GPA requirements? Okay, thank you for your presentation time. Thank you so much. That's a good question. And so for scholarship requirements, like I mentioned, it would be mostly for your second year. So you have to finish your first year at NATE first. And some of them do have GPA requirements depending on the scholarships. There are many, many different scholarships actually. And so some of them have a GPA requirement, some of them don't. They're what we call bursaries as well. And so in your second year, there is a huge number of scholarships that are available to you. So you would be able to be applying for most of them. So some, just as an example that we have, would be specific to the schools that are specifically for international students. So international students who are studying in the School of Business, if your GPA is of a certain level, then you'll be able to get those scholarships, for example. And it depends. Some other ones are maybe even dependent on having done some volunteer work on campus and being very active on campus. That's another requirement for other types of scholarships. So it really does depend. If you're interested in our scholarship programs, you can see that on our website. We have just Google scholarships at NATE, and then you can find out what kind of scholarships are available there. Okay. All right. So here we have, how is accommodating and living expenses in Edmonton and comparing with Toronto? Is it more expensive or cheaper? So it is actually much cheaper to live in Edmonton. So first of all, like I said, we don't have any sales taxes, so that already does make a lot of things cheaper. In terms of rent even, I believe we are close to about 40% less than Toronto. So you know, if you were to get a bachelor suite in Edmonton, it's about $500–600. If you were in Toronto, it's almost close to 100. So, sorry, 1,000. So it could almost be double of some of that amount. That's at least even in terms of rent. And then so in everything else, it would be a lot cheaper as well. Okay. So career opportunities. How is career opportunities for international students after graduation? So, yeah, this is a really good one for you to check out, especially for a specific program area that you're interested in. I highly suggest that you look into the employment rates, because not all the rates are the same for each of our programs. So our current employment rate right now is at 87% on average, but each program is different. So some programs flare better than others. So it's important for you to check and see which industry is doing better than some other ones too. That's a good place to check. But also note that these percentages include all students, not just international students. And so it could be a variety of everybody there. Okay. So can international students do internships during the study? Do you have any partner companies for internships? Yes, we do. So internships are what we call here co-op opportunities. And so for different programs, there are co-op opportunities. It depends, not all of them have it, but a majority of our programs do have that. And so we have partner companies in a sense that these are companies that have hired our students before, but usually the students have to make their own application to the company still. So maybe we have a whole list of companies that they will put their job postings, and then you have to apply to them or to do that internship, so to speak. Okay. So what is the minimum requirement GPA for a bachelor degree? Do we need to take SAT scores? So the minimum, so ours, we don't use GPA requirements for bachelors. We actually take high school grades. So for example, if you were to go into our Bachelor of Business Administration, you need 5 different courses of English, math, and then 5 different grade 12 courses. So it's not really a requirement, GPA requirement per se, but we have a percentage for each course that you need to meet a minimum of. So usually it's around 55%. It could be a little bit more or less, depending on the different programs. We have 2 other bachelor degrees, but actually they do require that you have a diploma background. So for example, our Bachelor of Applied Information Systems, which is for IT, requires that you have an IT diploma. And so there is a GPA requirement for that one, for that diploma. It's usually around a 2.3. So it depends on, I guess, what you've already done. If you're in high school, then it's not necessarily a GPA that we're looking at here. Okay. So can you please inform about language requirement? Do you offer English prep year? So yes, we do have our ESL program. So the language requirement for IELTS is 6.5 overall with 5.0 individual band. TOEFL is 80 overall and then 20 individual band. If it's IELTS, if it's Duolingo, is 115. Okay, so we do have English as a second language if that's what you're interested in too. Okay. All right, application deadlines. If it's not rolling admission, will there be any flexibility this year? That's a good question. So application deadlines, we don't actually have a deadline except for our health programs, which the deadline has already passed. And so students can continue applying because we have students who are currently in Canada applying, so we don't actually close it off. And so if you are looking to apply, I would suggest maybe looking to apply to next year January start, or even next year May start, you know, if you want more time. However, because of the pandemic lately, for these past couple of semesters, we have been trying to what you call here roll admission. So we call them deferring admission. We only do that because of the COVID situation. Usually we don't have a policy for that. So for some students who were supposed to start in September last year, because of COVID, they weren't able to travel. So we were able to defer them into January as well as September next year. So we have been doing that. But it does cause an issue in a sense because then we have less space for students who want to apply for next year. So we only have been doing that because of COVID. So if you apply and COVID still is happening, then it's a possibility that we will have something like that. But I would suggest kind of thinking in advance because of these things before you do that too. Okay, so let's see. Which engineering program areas has the most advantage for international students who like to build a career in Canada? It's hard for me to kind of just pinpoint specific ones, but if I have to choose, I would suggest IT, because I think the IT area really is going to be booming, especially in this kind of era right now, right? Everybody is going into using everything online, the way we are doing right now. And another thing too, for Alberta, actually, we have been diversifying our economy, so we're not just working on oil and gas. We have been diversifying and moving a lot into the IT area too. So there has been a lot of funding and government support in IT. So that's something that I would suggest, but you can also look into things such as, like I mentioned, environment and energy sector, right? So those are areas that I would say the environmentally friendly energy sector could be another area that could be a boost in the future too. So that's something just to think about. Okay, so here, do you offer studies for trucks technician and driving school for 2 years? Unfortunately, no, we don't. Yeah, sorry. Okay, I read that students from America, Philippines, etc. are not allowed to take IELTS. Is that accurate? That's a good question. We actually, so while I mentioned that most students need to show proof of language English proficiency, we have some countries that are exempt. If you go onto our website, you can actually see the list of countries that you do not, does not require you to take IELTS. So for example, if you're from the Philippines, you do not need to. If you studied in the Philippines, you also do not need to, as long as you studied there for 3 years. So say you are a Turkish student and you went to the States and you studied in the States for 3 years, then you will not need to take IELTS. So hopefully that's helpful. Okay. So when should I pay the deposit, after the application or before? So you pay the deposit maximum is 1 month, 1 month after you get offered admission. So once we give you an offer, you have 1 month to decide whether you want to pay the deposit to accept that offer. So that's the timeline that you will get. You won't have to pay it before the application. Okay. Can you give some info about Culinary Arts? So the Culinary Arts program is a 2-year program, and it also does have, we have our own, what we call lab space, but really it's a restaurant at NATE. And so that's a program that you can actually obviously be working in the lab and be doing a lot of the cooking classes, and then you'll be learning all kinds of basic skills as well as international cuisines. A lot of our students actually graduated and started their own business in Edmonton, and there are a lot of restaurants in Edmonton that are from our NATE grads as well. So I would suggest that you can take a look at our website, and you can see a lot more about Culinary Arts there. Okay, and the last questions, lessons in English or French? They will be in English. All right. Okay, I think I answered, I answered most of the questions here. I'm not sure if there were any other ones.
Yes, thank you very much, Eden. You answered all of the questions. I think we don't have any in the chat box, so.
Okay. Yeah, well then, thank you very much, everybody, for listening. I know it's your afternoon, almost dinner time, so I hope that you'll be able to have a great evening, and I really do hope to see you guys on campus soon. Feel free to connect with me if you have any questions at all.
Yeah, thank you very much for your great presentation, Eden. It was a really comprehensive and informative webinar. I would like to ask you if you could just share the email address that participants can contact directly on the chat box.
Sure. Put that here. Okay, so I have that here.
Yes, thank you. Also, I would like to thank the participants in Turkish as well. Katıldığınız için teşekkür ederiz arkadaşlar. Northern Alberta Institute of Technology ile ilgili diğer sorularınız için Eden'in paylaşmış olduğu mail adresinde iletişime geçebilirsiniz. Aynı zamanda sizi alttaki webinarımıza da davet etmek isteriz. Thank you very much, Eden. Again, it was a pleasure to have you in IEFT Talks.
Okay, thank you all.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.